Hello and welcome to the Emmy Awards. I'm your host, Emmy Cardinale, and this is my podcast where I talk about what I've been watching or rewatching once a week. If this is the first episode of mine that you stumble upon and you enjoy it, please feel free to follow me wherever you listen to podcasts. If you're listening to this on YouTube, give it a like, subscribe to my channel. If you've listened to a few episodes, rate and review, that would be nice, not necessary. Thank you so much for tuning in. As the title suggests, I will be covering Big Brother Week 4. Quick disclaimer at the beginning, I am recording this Thursday night because I anticipate this episode being a little bit longer just because I have a couple other shows I want to talk about before I jump into week 4 of Big Brother 27. And because of that, I thought that I would record Thursday so I can have extra time to edit it to hopefully get this out Sunday. I've been late in my last couple episodes and I really want Sunday to be my release date. So I'm recording it Thursday to give myself some extra time to edit it so I can hopefully get it out Sunday. Anyways, all that being said, I had originally planned that I would include BB Unlocked the same week that it happened, but because I'm recording this Thursday, BB Unlocked hasn't aired. So when this episode comes out on Sunday or Monday, if it's late, hopefully not. Whenever it comes out, a Big Brother Unlocked episode will have already passed. I'll talk about that in my next recap, in my week 5 recap. I just want to clarify because I had originally planned that I'd cover BB Unlocked within the same week. But I think I'll just stick to I'll talk about BB Unlocked next week because I don't want to wait a night to record just for BB Unlocked. So if there's anything that I missed, that's why. I also, quick disclaimer, I am a one-woman show and I have a full-time job. I also have kittens I'm fostering and other responsibilities. So while I do my absolute best to stay up to date with feeds, I miss things. And because there's no rewind, I can't catch up on things. I can only go off of what people summarized if I wasn't watching feed. So I try to keep up, but if I miss something, I'm sorry. I also don't really do extremely detailed recaps and talking about every single the personal dynamics. I've talked about some of the showman stuff that comes up in the edited show, but in terms of the showmances or the flirtmances or who likes who, and I haven't really touched much on the Morgan, Zach, Lauren. I don't get too into the personal stuff, only if it impacts game. And I do think Morgan and Zach's dynamic obviously impacts the game in certain ways. But anyways, just some disclaimers. And if I do miss something that you feel was important, or I described an event in a way that missed an important detail, please correct me. I do not want to be the edited show where I miss things that are important to them. Not to be shady, but the edit is very often not accurate and I don't want to be inaccurate. So if I mess something up, please feel free to comment and say, actually, Emmy, this happened. Please feel free to correct me. Those are all my Big Brother disclaimers. Before I jump into Big Brother 27 week 4, I have a couple other shows I want to talk about. Timestamps will be in the description so you can skip to Big Brother 27 or skip to one of the other shows or whatever you want to do. Thanks so much for tuning in again. Okay, so the first show I want to touch back in on, which I've covered in my last couple episodes as well, is The Summer I Turned Pretty. Now, this is so silly of me, but I actually have less to say about episode 5 than I have because I feel in my last couple episodes I've really ranted about how I feel about the Jeremiah and Belly dynamic and stuff like that. And so honestly, episode 5 I genuinely loved so much that I don't feel I have a ton to talk about because I don't have many critiques. I'm obviously going to talk about what I enjoyed, and I am going to rant a little bit, but I feel I'm not going to talk as much about The Summer I Turned Pretty because I honestly really liked the episode. Something I think is really, really fascinating about The Summer I Turned Pretty is that depending whose quote-unquote team you're on, you have a vastly different perception of the show. And I'm not saying that that's uncommon, right? But it's genuinely really confusing to me sometimes the way people who are anti-Conrad, because it's not even people are team Jeremiah. A lot of the times the team Jeremiah people are anti-Conrad, and I can't blame them because I'm anti-Jeremiah. So I'm not going to be why do you hate Conrad? I don't care if you hate Conrad. I don't like Jeremiah. So like, I'm not going to be a hypocrite. Hate who you hate. It impacts me 0%. But it's just really fascinating, the dialogue on the internet after an episode, because it's like the way people describe things is like, what? I feel like we're watching two different shows. And it's just so fascinating how art really is in the eye of the beholder. And like, obviously that's so cliche, but like, for example, and I find this to be a particularly, I don't know what the right word is, concerning, odd, baffling, weird narrative. People are like, Conrad, the scenes it was giving Joe Goldberg. It's like, can we please touch grass, have some kind of like reality that we're connecting to? How on earth is he giving Joe Goldberg? Like, please, there's context. Conrad is nothing like Joe Goldberg. He literally keeps a ton of distance from himself and Belly. I mean, that just feels so disingenuous. I'm sorry. That's like a very wild perception. And honestly, it made me think of, and like, I'm not like the biggest fan of How I Met Your Mother, because I've rewatched it a few times, and I have like a lot of thoughts about How I Met Your Mother that I do think I've dived into a little bit on this podcast. But I'm not like, I wouldn't recommend it, honestly. I mean, I think it's really good nostalgia factor, and I think there are a lot of really good writing aspects to it. How I Met Your Mother is like a very complicated show for me personally in terms of my relationship. Anyways, but there is a thing that they talk about in How I Met Your Mother, which is like the Dahmer Dobler thing, where it's like, if you're interested in somebody, over the top gestures, or like, you know, if you're not interested in somebody, romance can seem creepy. And I think that is like so clear to me in the way that people view Conrad, because they like are not attracted to him. They dislike his character. And because of that, the romantic things he does are repulsive to them, because it genuinely baffles me the way they distort things, because it's like, that's actually just not what happened. Like, that's not what happened. He's not like, and it's fine if people have a perception that way, but it's like, we need to be a little bit like realistic if we're comparing a guy who likes a girl who's like never harmed her, who was in a relationship and is like pining after her, in the same way that we're talking about like a serial killer whose whole thing was like manipulating situations to be close to his victims and like having an internal dialogue about how he was like a good guy. Like, comparing Conrad to Joe Goldberg is crazy work. Like, I'm sorry, that is a little bit like, what are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about? Like, sincerely. I thought it was super romantic. I thought it was beautiful. I really liked, there is something about the way that, like, it's funny because I feel like I've very often said that more than I am Team Conrad, I just really don't like Jeremiah, and I don't think Belly should be with Jeremiah. This episode, I was like, I'm sold. I like their dynamic. And it's not like, his perspective aside, the like pining, the way that he viewed her and Michael's, which was so romantic to me, it's the way he like problem solves and like comforts her. She's like worried at the flower place because they can't afford flowers, and he's like, we'll get the hydrangeas. Like, he problem solves in a way that isn't like pouty and like manipulative. There's just something about the way he handles conflict and solves problems and like comforts Belly, and that it just feels different. The conversation they had in the car where they like playfully teased each other, but he was able to open up to her and she was able to connect with him. Oh my God, don't even get me started on the fact that in the car ride, when they were talking about how he felt when he moved to California and how it felt to be far away from home for the first time, and Belly talking about how she thought that she was going to have that with Paris, I was pissed. But it's just this thing where like Belly's freaking out about the cake, and Conrad's like, well, we don't have to do like the whole big thing. Okay, here's the solution. When she calls Jeremiah, she's so excited that she has a solution, and like, what does he do? He's like, no, this is my one thing. Mind you, he wants to spend $750 on a cake when she got her dress on sale at a prom shop. So maybe a couple $100. I mean, I don't remember. When I shopped for prom, it was like a decade ago. No, not quite a decade ago. I'm only 26. I went to prom when I was like 17, 18. Like 8.5 years ago, I guess, approximately. When I went shopping for prom dresses, it's like, I don't think any dress, at least that I was buying, was $700. Like it was probably in the like a few hundred at most, especially if it's on sale. But I don't know. That was also a while ago. Maybe prom dresses are very expensive. But my point is, I don't think that the things Belly is spending on are, it is genuinely, a wedding cake is important. I'm not saying wedding cakes aren't important. I'm not clowning on the importance of a cake like that. I think it's just important if like you want to get married and you're determined to get married and have like a full wedding at that age with those resources, then like accept that it's not going to be everything you want. Just get married. And then like in 10 years when you, like to me, this is a very foreign concept, but if I wanted to get married and I really loved somebody and I was like, I want us to get married now, but we couldn't afford certain things that I had imagined in my wedding, I'd be like, you know what? Let's do with what we have now. What matters is that I want to be married to you. And then when we save up a little bit of money on one of our anniversaries, we can throw a really nice party. Because at the end of the day, that's what a wedding is. It's like a really nice party. Obviously, like the ceremony's beautiful. I'm not saying that. But you can have like a smaller ceremony and like, I don't know. It's just like you don't need that cake right now if it's going to like, you still have another semester of college, which means that you won't be working, probably you won't be working like full time. Belly's hasn't graduated, so neither of you are going to have like 401ks and like salaries or anything that like $750 when you're in college and you're working like a part-time job, that is like pretty expensive. Like that adds up, okay? I mean, $750 for a cake now for me, even though I have like a full-time job, would still be a lot of money for a cake. But it's just like, especially in the situations you're in, it's just unreasonable, his reaction and the way that like she was so excited to be like, I have a solution. And instead of him being like, oh, I'm really disappointed about that, it's him being like, no, we're getting the cake anyway. Like the way he responded, that's the thing that bothers me about Jeremiah. It's like, if he's upset about the cake, okay, I'm not clowning on you for being disappointed that you're not getting the cake you wanted. But you know what you can say is, Belly, I really, if there's any way that we can manage, I'll find the cake. I'll put it on my personal, and it'll be my responsibility to pay off. Instead, he's like, well, you said we each got one thing, and now I'm not getting my one thing. And then the cherry on top of this fucking mirror glaze cake. There's no cherry. I'm being metaphorical. That's obvious. I don't need to clarify. Anyways, then the cherry on top is at the end of the episode, he's like, my dad wants to pay for the wedding. Belly, immediately you can tell she's not super into him paying for the wedding because that's not what their plan was, right? They were doing it themselves. Because Belly is smart and she recognizes that if Adam's paying for it, then it's not going to be what Jeremiah and Belly wanted. It's going to be for Adam. And then what does he say? Immediately is like, oh, my dad's going to invite some colleagues. Belly takes issue with that. And Jeremiah, on purpose or not, whatever you people want to defend Jeremiah, he manipulates Belly that's manipulative. It is not healthy communication that your partner expresses something that's upsetting them, and the way he reacts to things is not okay. I'm sorry, it's not okay. If Belly's like, that's not what I want for my wedding, he's like, I'm sorry. I thought my dad was trying with me for the first time. It's like, what the fuck is she supposed to respond to that? And then immediately after, she's like, and I agreed to do your dance. What the fuck does Belly get? What the fuck does Belly get? The beach house is extremely important to her. Allegedly, he knows that because he gave her the key last episode. But he cares more about his dad and proving himself to his dad than he does about what Belly wants for their wedding. It's annoying to me. Like, we all get one thing. What does Belly get in this dynamic? Like, I just don't like the way that she, like, concedes. They don't have a healthy back and forth of him being like, this is how I feel, and her being like, this is how I feel, and they come to a resolution, right? Belly is upset at the flower shop, and Conrad tries to problem solve. That is a healthy dynamic. It's like, this is what I want. This is what we work with. Let's find a way that we can make the best out of the situation. Jeremiah is like, he's not like, let's make the best out of the situation. He's like, that's not the situation I want. So it needs to be the situation I want. It's childish. It's immature. Jeremiah is immature. I'm sorry. It really bothers me. But it was a very beautiful episode. Even just like the conversation they had in the car really stood out to me, because that is like, Conrad opened up to her. Belly like bounced back and expressed her feelings, and he like, you know, like Conrad, despite how painful it was for him in moments to continue to be around her and like, you know, to feel close to her in that way again, did it because Belly needed to go to Michael's. She needed to get those errands done before the coupon expired, and he cared more about her getting what she needed that day than he did about his own feelings. Jeremiah, Belly calls him excited about a solution, and supposedly he should be in a good mood because his dad's all fucking proud of him. Like, it's not like Jeremiah had a shitty ass day and he like lashed out at her, okay? And he didn't after the fact, and maybe there will be a conversation, but actually no, because if Adam had never offered to pay for the wedding, you just know, or at least I know, this is my opinion, whatever, this is my take. I genuinely believe if Adam had never agreed to pay for the wedding and money was still an issue and they were still on a tight budget, I do not genuinely believe that Jeremiah would have come around and said, you know what, Belly, $750 is a lot for a cake. I'll set that aside and I'll pay it off and it'll be my personal debt and it won't impact you at all. I promise. It really matters to me. Like, there is no mature, responsible communication between the two of them. He drives me crazy. Like, I'm sorry. He really drives me crazy. And I just like, I think it would be one thing, honestly, if Jeremiah had his flaws. Conrad, and like, yes, I know Conrad wasn't the best boyfriend to her at moments and times to Belly. He was rude to her in season 1, okay? Their dynamic is healthier than what she has with Jeremiah. It just is, because it is not healthy to cave to every single desire that your partner wants because you do not feel safe to have a conversation and be like, no, Jeremiah, actually, no. She doesn't stand firm in what she wants with him. And the thing with Conrad is that he knows. And I think this is a communication flaw of Belly's, because I don't think people should have to read your mind. But Conrad has the awareness to be like, she's saying one thing, but I don't think this is what she actually feels. Like, when he picks her up and she's like, you take the bags, I'll take the bike, he grabs the bike because he knows carrying the bike is the harder thing to do. He knows that Belly's a people pleaser and she's gonna like, you know, like, that's the thing. Even with the Michael's thing, when he's like, let's go to Michael's, even though she was like not pushing him that she wanted to go to Michael's, he recognized that she needed that. And he said, you know what, I'll take you to Michael's. Jeremiah doesn't do that. It's just, I'm sorry, he's a better partner to her. He just is. Did he have his flaws? Yes. And in terms, one last thing, and then I'll move on. But one last thing that the Team Jeremiah people said that I thought was so sick and twisted. Like, I'm sorry, this actually disgusted me. I saw people saying that the scene where he reminisced about the last time that they slept together before they broke up 4 years ago, I saw somebody saying that was creepy because he is a 23-year-old man fantasizing about sleeping with a teenager. That is disgusting. That is like genuinely... that makes absolutely no sense. That makes no sense. It wasn't like they were hanging out and he just imagined having sex with her. She mentioned flowers from the guest room, and he remembered the last time he was in that guest room, and it happened to be that moment. It triggered a memory, and he was thinking about the last time he was in that guest room with the flowers. You guys are acting like he is like objectifying her and like enjoying time with her automatically means and also it's like just really, really fucked up to like frame it in like a predatory way of like he's a grown man and he's like sexualizing. Like, no, he's reminiscing on a relationship he also had when he was also a teenager. Okay, you can be Team Jeremiah without having to distort Conrad into this like revolting, disturbing, horrible monster. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. I'm sorry. That is a wild statement. Okay, I'm sorry. Like, it just really pisses me off. But I loved the episode, genuinely. I'm Team Conrad very firmly now. I cannot be moved from this position. I think it's more romantic. I think it's a better dynamic in your life to have somebody who cares enough to compromise, who cares enough to make themselves uncomfortable if it's what you need and what will make you happiest. Jeremiah doesn't do that. In fact, it ends up being Belly being the one who sacrifices and pushes and compromises on everything. He gets his one thing. He's like, no, I'm not. He insists on the cake because they each get one thing. The first thing Belly says when he talks about Adam paying for the wedding. Is he okay with us having it at the beach house? Because that's clearly her one thing. And what does he say? No, he wants to have it at the club and invite people. Belly's like, why are we inviting your business colleagues? And then what does he do? He pouts. He makes himself the victim of like, we don't have to do that, but I really, like, I don't want to let my dad down. So like, what is Belly going to say? He's putting her in a really shitty position where it's like, what is she going to say? No, Jeremiah, I don't care about your relationship with your dad. This is more important. No, he positions it in a way of like, you can obviously say no, but this is my relationship with my dad. This really matters, which she knows it matters. So what is she going to say? No, a wedding matters more to me. No, but it's not about the wedding. It's about the priorities, about the care, about, he really pisses me off. I'm sorry. It was a great episode, not to be all negative, but I just like, genuinely, when they called on the phone, like Belly was so freaked out about the cake. She was so paranoid. She was at the bakery, freaking out about the prices. She texted him and he's like, no, I'm stuck at work. Then she calls him. She feels relieved that she has a solution where Jeremiah can still be happy. Mind you, she likes milk chocolate. Conrad's asking her the difference between 70% cacao and 80% cacao. And she's like, I don't know. I like milk chocolate. So on the phone, she offers a solution, excited. And instead of being like, oh, that's interesting, I don't really, that's a little bit disappointing to me. Instead of calmly expressing his feelings while trying to understand where she's coming from and proposing this alternative option, right? He shuts down, mansplains cacao. Cacao is the bean. Bitch, shut the fuck up. Sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, I need to recenter. Anyways, I'll be back next week to talk about episode 6 in a similar style. And maybe one day I'll do a deep dive where I recap scene by scene. But I genuinely loved the episode. So on to the next show that I want to talk about before I jump into Big Brother 27 is Bachelor in Paradise Season 10. I talked about this, I think, a few weeks ago, but it's been a hot minute since I talked about Bachelor in Paradise. But I do want to touch on it briefly because so much has happened. And I'm going to miss some stuff because I honestly don't remember the last I spoke. But I'm just kind of going to rant about the things that have been on my mind. And I also want to talk about the new game because I'm really, really excited about that. Like, genuinely so excited. I can't express how much. And I have a lot of thoughts about that. But before that happened, I think last I spoke, Jill had just come in. I don't remember if I talked about when she left, but I was really sad when that happened. I understood why. Sorry if you hear any background noise. I'm fostering kittens and they're noisy. What can I say? I don't remember what I was talking about. Okay, so I don't remember where I last left off in Bachelor in Paradise, but I have a few. I'm going to talk about couples and like stuff like that more than I'm going to talk about plot points. I really want to talk about Dale and Kat. I have to be honest, the men on this season in Paradise, really subpar. Really disappointing me. The best men were the golden men, and that's actually saying like a decent amount for me because I was super not into the Golden Bachelorette season. Like, I liked the Golden Bachelor and I talked about it on this podcast, but like before they had started the Golden Bachelor, I was like, the Bachelor felt like it was in trouble. There was an episode from my podcast over a year ago for sure, where I was talking about how like the Bachelor franchise doesn't have to die because it was like, you know, starting to fail. And then honestly, I couldn't have even predicted. Then they canceled a bunch of seasons of stuff. And anyways, that's a whole other thing. But I really felt like a hope after the first Golden Bachelor because I was like, I feel like this is part of what was missing in like the OG Bachelors, like the authenticity and the like love. And like, I was really into the Golden Bachelor season. The Golden Bachelorette, I don't know if it was the producing, the pacing, it didn't hit the same for me. And I think that's like I don't think that's like a controversial statement. I don't think a lot of people like loved Joan's season. And I don't think a lot of people like hated the season. I think it just was not very noteworthy. And the men were great. I mean, I loved the men on Paradise. And I really was like not particularly invested in the Golden Bachelor contestants coming in. But I think they've done it in like an okay way. But anyways, that's not super relevant to what I wanted to talk about. I went on that random little side note because the men this season really disappointed me. And I will say, as much as I thought it was like a cheeky, fun moment when April gave Jonathan her rose, and I understood the purpose of it because Jonathan had been like a character and it was like I understood it at the moment. I think honestly, we've just reached a point, and maybe it's hindsight, but like after this week's episode, the Monday the 4th, that episode, after that day, after that episode, I was like, more than ever, I was like, why did we keep Jonathan? They should have, should have had another golden couple instead of Jonathan, because then it was like literally they were like golden contestants got cut in half because they didn't bring in any new golden men. The whole thing was a shit show, and like maybe if Jonathan had like panned out into a relationship, that would have been something. But like, I don't even know. Like all the men this season are really pissed me off. Like the whole Dale and Kat thing really upset me because I do feel like he kind of like demeaned her, talking about like it's different upbringings. It's like you don't know what kind of upbringing she's had, and honestly, if she did have like a rough upbringing, that is a really low blow. Like that's a really nasty thing to say. You're basically being like, I'm better than you. And I didn't know this when I was watching that episode, but after the fact, I saw like I got a video. I think my sister sent it to me. Somebody posted Kat's date from her season of The Bachelor where she's talking about an insecurity she has about how she didn't have a stable upbringing and she's like worried that people will judge her for it. So like if Dale knew that and he said that, then that's nasty. And if he didn't, then he just proved why you shouldn't say that to people. That's a weird thing to say. Even if I meet somebody and they handle conflict very differently than me, and I'm like, maybe it's like a family thing, I'd never assume that it's like, oh, you were just different upbringings, because I don't think somebody's upbringing defines the way that they handle conflict. And I also think it's really reductive and like insulting to, what if she did have a rough upbringing and that's why maybe she doesn't handle conflict in the exact way that you did, that you think is more healthy? Why are you like shaming her for it? And I also like the crazy thing to me in that situation was it wasn't like she was being particularly, like it wasn't that, like I really was on Kat's side in the whole exchange. She was being a little playful. Like he kept saying he deaded it when she was taking issue with the fact that he kissed somebody and didn't tell her. And she made a joke at the after the rose ceremony, being like, I was gonna say when I handed you the rose that if you say deaded it again, like she was being playful with him and trying to poke fun at the fact that he had been like irritating her. And like they are just very incompatible. And I don't know any spoilers post-season, but I genuinely believe, like hope that if they ended the season together, I really hope they're not together, because I think Kat deserves better. I don't think that they're compatible. I think she deserves somebody who won't judge her in that way. I was gonna say who won't make her feel judged, but I don't even think it's about like if she would like felt judged. I do think he was like explicitly judging her and placing like, you know, separating him from her in a way of like, that really icked me out. And maybe it's because I've experienced certain things that I've worked through in therapy that I know that like I would never want somebody to use painful things against me that may be that maybe are explanations for why I'm not always my best self. If somebody like brought that up in that way, like that's just really disrespectful in my opinion. I don't know what upbringing you had, Dale, but in my upbringing, I don't even know if this is something my parents instilled in me. I'm not saying they didn't, but like I don't know if it has to do with my upbringing, but I just don't like the idea of like judging people based off of like their upbringing and their backgrounds, because it's also like that's not your fault. Obviously you're an adult and it's your responsibility to not let like your traumas and the experiences you had prevent you from growing and being, you know, but like to judge somebody for something that they couldn't have controlled and then use that to be like, I don't like the way you're handling this, instead of just being like, hey, I don't like the way you're handling this. It's like, not only is he like, I don't like the way you're handling this wrong. He's like, you're handling this wrong because you had a shitty childhood or something. Like, that's he didn't say that, okay? I'm not trying to put words in his mouth, but like, that was a sentiment in a way that really upset me. I just don't like the way Dale treats Kat. I don't. Justice for Kat. Justice for Kat, for real. Like, I'm sorry, I'm on her side. I really do not like Dale. And then Jeremy and Bailey and the Susie of it all, right? Okay. So Jeremy goes on a date with Susie, then he ends up choosing Bailey. Bailey then, I do think I touched on this, but it's important context. Bailey, I think, then either goes on a date or considers going on a date, and Jeremy gets upset because he's like, I just gave you my rose. Anyways, then, very soon after, he starts saying that he wished that he had given Susie a rose, right? And that was fine, whatever. I mean, it wasn't good, but then they seem to be going strong, right? In the edit, it's like, that, in that moment, honestly, felt like, and I do think maybe I said this, but to me, it felt less like he was like, damn it, I think I'm more compatible with Susie, and more like, fuck, I just gave Bailey my rose and now I'm probably going home. Like, can you bring somebody in to give me a rose? Like, it felt more about staying on the show than it did about Susie. But then in the next few episodes, it's become like a recurring thing that he like wishes that he would have given the rose to Susie. Like, there was a moment, and this was genuinely so confusing to me, where there's a mic in the room, right? But he's like trying to say this without the microphone in his face, and he's like, he says something about Susie, I don't remember what, which was so silly, okay? Never say, I'm gonna take my microphone off, like, to say this, or like, I'm gonna say this, but like, so the microphones don't hear us, okay? They will up the audio, especially there is a mic in the room, okay? They will capture what you said, right? Okay, so he says the thing about Susie, then it's like become this thing, and then he said it to Brian, and then Brian's gonna use that against him. And don't even get me started on Brian. Brian really fucking pisses me off. I'll get to him next. But like Jeremy, now it seems like Brian's gonna tell Bailey that, which I think Bailey deserves to know. And I prefer when people are told things that were said, like, you know, I prefer that, because I think it's really, 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 it really upsets me. I don't know what the word is, but I do not like it at all when somebody has to find something out through an edit. Like, they have to watch the show back to see that somebody was like playing them, basically. I think that's really, really like disheartening, especially if you're together, and then it's like, do you feel like a fool when you're watching it back? And like that must be a really, really jarring feeling. I don't know, I can't imagine it, and it upsets me for those people, because I'm like, you don't deserve to be deceived that way in general, but to be deceived that way on a public stage and then not even know until the public knows, that upsets me. Anyway, so I am, even if Brian's doing it strategically, I don't know. Like, we'll see. It hasn't happened yet. We've just seen it in the previews. But for whatever reason he does that, I am at least glad that Bailey knows ahead of time. So if they end up together, maybe she had more data and information. I don't know. I also have seen, I think Jeremy himself was like commenting on the Franken biting. I think the most egregious thing, honestly, because in the last episode, Monday's episode, where the competition aspect is like introduced and they're like playing games to win, there were like ITMs of Jeremy talking about wanting to win the money and like how important the money was to him, and apparently like that was spliced together where like he didn't say that Bailey and I are going to win the money, or like it was set off face, and then he even posted on Instagram, like, so in that regard, I don't really care, but I'm also not somebody who would vilify somebody for even caring about getting the money. I don't really care. I don't care. I do care if you're like leading people on or not being honest because you want to stay for the money. I have a problem with that. Like Jonathan, I don't think he's necessarily, for me it's hard with Jonathan because in my brain, I don't feel like he is genuinely trying to lead the girls on. I think he thinks he's being clear when he's not. At least that's what I assume, because I feel like I just don't see Jonathan being like that scheming of a guy or like that malicious, where he is like being like, I need these girls to think that like there's a romantic future with them. I think he just like, I don't know. That's my read on Jonathan. I still don't like it. The fact that like Kat's like, how do you feel about Leia? And he's like, we're just friends. And she's like, you started friends, but like there's potential there. And he's like, no, just friends. And she's like, does Leia know? And he's like, yeah, I think so. And then Leia doesn't know. She's like, he's saying things like, he's so glad that I'm here, that he finally feels calm in paradise. Like, it's these things where I think Jonathan is in his mind isn't saying them, but it's also like, it's very obvious that the person you're saying that to, like Jonathan, if he just sat down and was like, I want to be friends, That's not what he does. Like, he says things and he's like, but I didn't mean it in like a, and it's like, you're either obtuse or like, I don't know. Jonathan is a piece of work, respectfully. Because like the whole thing with Jill, where she was like, you were saying that I was saying all these things that made you excited. And he's like, yeah, but he didn't mean it with her. Like, she was reminding him of something he could have, but he didn't mean her specifically. He told Leia that he felt comfortable and he was happy that she was there, but he didn't mean it. Like, what the hell is going on? What the hell is going on? Last, and then I'll get into my thoughts on the whole prize thing and the gameplay of it all, because I do have a lot to say about that. But last before, I really hate Brian. I didn't particularly care for Brian and the whole Zoe thing. I wasn't particularly on either side because I don't think either of them, like, I think Zoe maybe had valid complaints, but I don't like the way she communicated it. It could have also been edited poorly. I don't really know. I don't have anything negative to say about Zoe because I don't think that he was like a saint in that. Like, it was just a thing where it's like, you aren't compatible. I don't even know why you're trying. And that's easier said than done. But I honestly, for me, that didn't feel like it was going to be anything. So then I was like, I don't really care. Like, she's upset that they're like, about the communication, and like, I guess that's valid, but it's like, do you guys even like each other that much? Why do I care? Like, I wasn't invested enough in their relationship to care. Then Parisa came down, and Parisa, for some reason, gave him a chance. No, I'm kidding. She just like, and I don't know her, and these are strangers on a TV show, and I'm not trying to glorify anybody or like, you know, idealize anybody or vilify anybody. Like, I don't know these people. But like, everything I've seen of Parisa, she seems like such a genuinely like kind-hearted person. She seems so sweet, and I think honestly it just broke my heart watching her reaction to the way Brian was treating her, because she clearly was taking it like, what did I do wrong? Like, where it's like, you didn't do anything wrong. Like, you're doing absolutely nothing wrong. You deserve better than somebody who acts that way to you. The way he was treating her, like, really, really upset me. They did horrible in the competition, and like, obviously that like weighed on her, but it wasn't just that. It was like, they won a prize. They were going like decently strong. They won a prize, and then like, he acted so weird on this private date. Then they flopped at the competitions. Obviously she doesn't feel seen, and he's withdrawing. And instead of just saying like, I'm not feeling it, I mean, obviously maybe he wants to stay in the game, like they're partnered up at this point. Jesse has already said like, no more new people will be entering. He doesn't want to leave the TV show probably. I don't know. But whatever is happening, the way he's treating her is not okay. And it breaks my heart because she like deserves better. She's like playfully asking him what his favorite color is. And he's like, let's not do that. And he like pouts. He's like withdrawing from her. They're out like at like the cocktail party. He's like acting totally normal with his friends, but then like giving her the cold shoulder. It's like really, really upsetting to watch because she doesn't deserve to be treated that way. And you can tell it's like emotional whiplash because she's like, what did I do wrong? And it's like, I don't know. It really upsets me. It really upsets me. I cannot stand that man. And like, as much as I'm glad that Parisa stayed, part of me does wish that they had gone home. Because basically in this episode, Monday's episode, now they're playing a game, so no new people are coming in, and the roses will be won at the challenges. And for the first challenge, the winners, it was the women, because the women were giving out the roses. So the woman in the team got this power, but like, everybody was safe. Everybody got roses, except the people in the bottom three couples didn't have roses. The woman in the winning team got to choose which two couples to give roses to, right? So I liked this competition a lot. It was like strategic, but also you had to know about your partner because it was like you were betting chips, right? So you could either be like playing it safe if you know the answer, or like risking it all. We'll get into it. But it was like questions about like above or below, right? Like what's their body count? And it's like 10 above or below or whatever. How much would she spend on a gift, above or below, right? So you guess based off of what you think. And Bailey and Jeremy were doing really well. And at this point I was like, okay, like that really, like I've been torn on Bailey and Jeremy because I love Bailey. And like when they're good, they seem good. It's just very confusing to me because it's like, why is he also thinking about Susie? But like the thing for me, and maybe other people are reading it differently. I genuinely am not reading it as like I still think it's messed up. I want to be clear, I still think it's messed up and I don't like it regardless of the intent. But I'm not reading it as a like he's settling for Bailey and he doesn't actually like Bailey and he's like just biding his time until Susie comes back. I'm not reading it that way at all. I'm reading it as a, like he's still like wondering what could have happened, and like that is still like in his mind where he's like, I should have given Susie my rose, like what could have happened, which I still think is a fucked up thing to say repeatedly and to like think if you're that committed to somebody. It's like, do you like Bailey enough to not wonder? Because it's like, especially in these dating situations or like in the world, it's like you don't want to be with a partner who's going to be like, but what if it's better with somebody else? Or like, what if I had gone on a date with that person? Because hopefully you want to be with somebody who's with you and they're like, I don't want to be with anybody else. Like I'm not even wondering about like if it would be better somewhere else because it's so good right here. You know what I mean? But like that's the vibe I'm getting from Jeremy. That it's like less about like he's not enjoying it with Bailey and more that he's like used to having all the options available to him. So like he feels pigeonholed into this with Bailey, and so maybe he's wondering if he actually really likes Bailey and he's ready to commit to her. Or I do not think it's because he doesn't have a genuine connection with Bailey. I think it's more about the fact that maybe this man isn't used to or hasn't in a very long time like exclusively dated one person. You know, like maybe he came into this environment thinking like that he would sow his wild oats and have all the options available to him, and the only other option he had he didn't pursue all the way through. So he's still like, I wonder what that would have been like. But I don't think he's thinking that because he doesn't like Bailey. I think he's thinking that because he's not maybe at the mindset where he really wants to commit to one person. And I don't know because I've never been in a relationship, but maybe the argument is if you really care about the person, you'll be sure you want to commit to them. Okay, I don't know. I think there's also something to be said about like being ready in your life to want to commit to one person. And I think if you're used to dating a lot of people and you're enjoying that and you're not necessarily thinking about the like, I want to settle down, that I understand why that mindset would then translate to like the way Jeremy's behaving. I don't think it's right. I still think it's deceitful and like bad communication and like inconsiderate and like I still think it's bad. Like I'm not siding with Jeremy. I just don't think like I feel like some people are reading into Jeremy's whole thing as like he maliciously is leading Bailey on until he can get the access to contact Susie. And I don't think that I think he genuinely likes Bailey. I think he just has this roadblock where like this feels foreign to him. And I think he had a different expectation of Paradise, so he's like, I didn't get my Paradise experience. Again, I still think the impact and the way that ends up then discarding Bailey is not okay. I'm not reading into it as a malicious, calculated thing the way that some people are. But I don't know. I really like Bailey. And when they're together and in that competition, when they really knew each other, like that brought me, I was like rooting for them. Like I was shipping them. They ended up winning. Crazy at the end. It was Bailey, Jeremy, I don't remember who the second couple was, but then Gary and Leslie, the Goldens, they were in the top 3 as well. Gary, for some reason, decided to bet half of their chips on the last question, and he moved from like second place all the way down to the bottom. They would have been safe. If you won first place, you got a date, and then you also got the power. But like as long as you weren't in the bottom 3, you were safe. So, like, it was a completely unnecessary risk. He could have bet 2 chips, and then, like, even if they wouldn't have won. And the wild thing is that Jeremy bet, like, all of their chips or, like, double or whatever. So, even if Gary had won betting half the chips, he still wouldn't have beat Jeremy and Bailey's score. So, it was genuinely just a very silly move. So, he was in the bottom 3. Then Parisa and Brian were in the bottom 3. And Faith and Kim were in the bottom 3. And at that point, I was like, I love Parisa, but I honestly hope she doesn't get the rose because I don't want them to continue. But Bailey's friends with Parisa, so she did get the rose. And I really, really loved this aspect of the game. It felt very much like Bailey had the power of veto and they were campaigning to get off the block. Like, I loved that dynamic. I've seen, like, some mixed reviews of the whole game aspect because people are like, it's about love. It's like, embrace the game show of it all, okay? The Bachelor is a competition and it has been for a while. And genuinely, I reviewed Bachelor Pad the first 2 seasons. I haven't watched the third. Maybe when there's a lull, I'll watch Bachelor Pad 3 and I'll cover it the way I did seasons 1 and 2. But like, I revisited, well, not revisited because I hadn't seen them all the way through. I'd seen like bits and pieces, but I watched Bachelor Pad seasons 1 and 2, and it was genuinely one of the most captivating shows, and I loved it. So bringing this in, I was a huge fan, and I loved the fact that it wasn't Bachelor Pad-esque from the beginning. So it was a regular season of Paradise where people got to form connections, some stronger than others. Some people were basically connected from day one. Some people connected later on. All of that, all of the typical Paradise dynamics where it's like you fake how you feel so you can get a rose from somebody just to then go on a date with the person you were actually waiting for. Like all of the drama of Paradise. But then once you're established in a couple, instead of the weird thing that they've done in seasons past where it's like you're just coupled up for a little bit and then it's like, well, do you want to proceed to the fantasy suites and like that means that you're serious, or do you break up? And there was that one season where it was like every couple in the like last episode, it was just a compilation of breakups because no couple was strong enough. Now it's like it doesn't matter if you're strong enough. You don't make the decision. The games make the decision. You determine how strong you are based off of these compatibility challenges. And then if you're in the bottom, it's not just about your relationship with the person you're partnered up with, but with the other people in. Like, I loved it. I'm so excited to continue to break down, like, the gameplay. Like, I love the whole, them basically campaigning to Bailey. I love that she had the power to, like, save people the way she did. I like the decisions she made. Like, people are like, Leslie and Gary deserved it over Parisa and Brian. And it's like, I do agree. But also, like, from a purely strategic standpoint, and I don't think this was Bailey's motivation. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But, like, she didn't say this explicitly. But from a strategic standpoint, getting Gary and Leslie out was the smarter move because they were in the lead, and the only reason they were in the bottom was because Gary, like, made a mistake at the end and, like, bet all of their like, they were getting all the questions, maybe not all of them, but they were getting a lot of the questions right. Priest and Brian and then Faith and Kim were, like, at the bottom because they genuinely didn't know each other. Like, they weren't doing well in the challenges. So, like, in that regard, from a purely strategic standpoint, they were the strongest competitors of the three, so I think it made sense. I know that's not the motivation. Prisa's friend, or Bailey's friends with Prisa, so, like, that was the main motivator there. And then she felt like Faith and Kim didn't have as much of a time. Like, they were a new couple, so she didn't want to cut it short, before they got to get to know each other. That's what she said. But even if it was, like, purely strategic and this was, like, a game move, I think that was a smart move. But that's all I have to say about Bachelor in Paradise for now. I'll touch back in next week. And now, on to the main course. Big Brother 27, week 4. What a week. What a week. So the crazy thing is, I recorded my last episode, my week 3 episode, on Friday. And I was actually feeling pretty good about week 4 at the time that I recorded that episode. So I didn't touch on it much. It's not like I was talking about week 4. I tried not to, like, jump ahead. But, like, I genuinely wasn't disheartened or, like, disillusioned by feeds yet at that point. Like, I was enjoying week 4. And Saturday is when things really took a turn. Anyways, let me just go through it. So on Thursday, what we saw in the edited episode before feeds came back, so I don't know how accurate this is. I just always need to clarify that. But before the feeds, what we saw in the episode was, like, the typical people going through the votes. The 4 that voted for Will to go were mad. We also did get on Sunday's episode the flashback to Ava, like, flipping Zach and Vince, which we hadn't seen, and I did touch on last episode. So we did see that, and we saw kind of, like, more people's motivations. Zach tells Riley it was going to be 6-6, and I didn't want to make Lauren break the tie, yada, yada, yada. But obviously there's a side of the house, the 4 people, basically, that are really mad that it didn't go their way, right? Then Riley wins the HOH, and the HOH was, like, I don't know. Not much to note. It was like that balance beam thing, but also they were teams, and then like the rules kept changing. Unrelated to the actual game, but I loved Lauren's outfit. She was like the host of the HOH competition because she was the outgoing HOH, and it was giving like Red era, the Red Tour. If you know, you know. Anyways, that was what it was giving to me, and I loved it. I love Lauren. But Riley won the HOH, and when Feats came back and Riley was the HOH, I was like, great. I'm so excited. This is so fun. Like, I was not happy at all. I'm not a big fan of Riley, and I haven't talked about him much in the last couple episodes because he hasn't been super relevant to the game. And so, like, he just hasn't come up because I don't really touch on, like, the interpersonal. So I haven't really talked about Riley because I don't think he's been that interesting or important game-wise. But personality-wise, I don't like Riley. I find him unpleasant to watch on feeds. I don't like his whole vibe. I don't like Riley. Riley had previously said that his 3 nominees would be Morgan, Mickey, and Ashley. Is Ashley the third one? I don't remember. But regardless, the nominees were people I did not want on the block at the time. Now I don't give a fuck if Morgan and Mickey go on the block, and we'll get to that. But just to be clear, okay, as of right now, Thursday, the 7th of August, I don't care about Morgan and Mickey anymore. There are still people that I would want out before them. But anyways, let me get to it. So I was not excited at the time because I was like, this is going to be a really unpleasant HOH. I don't enjoy watching Riley on feeds, and I don't think he's going to make game decisions that I particularly like agree with. But Mickey still had her power. So it was like, okay, maybe Mickey will use her power. There was a little bit of hope. I went to bed Thursday night being like, well, Riley's the HOH, that sucks. Morgan, Mickey, Ashley, the noms, so excited for this man to get all of the women out because that's what he wanted, right? So I was not excited. I woke up and Mickey had used her power and successfully dethroned Riley, which was really exciting. I was super excited because it seemed very unlikely because Mickey, although she told Morgan, and I think she told one other person based off of the edit, but I don't remember. Like, we saw her telling Rachel, but I don't remember when she told Rachel. I think it was after Riley won the HOH. But there was already, I think maybe Morgan told Zach. It wasn't like in a vault. It wasn't like the only 2 people who knew, or at least had a suspicion, were Morgan and Mickey. Like, it's not like Mickey told Morgan and then people knew. Like, there was heavy suspicion that Mickey had the power. That was a name that came up multiple times from multiple people. So while I had an inkling that Mickey would use her power because obviously her name had come up, whether he was going to guess who it was or not, that was up in the air. So when I woke up and Mickey had successfully dethroned him, that was super exciting. We also got on feeds, there was a lot of discussion about, like, Riley had yelled at Mickey, Riley had yelled at Mickey, and I have to say, after seeing it on the episode, it really, really pissed me off. Not only did him yelling at her piss me off, but then the whole way the week transpired, I was just more angry, but I'll get to that. Anyways, he, like, yells at her, and he keeps saying, like, you lied to my face. It's like, did Riley genuinely want her to be like, I have the power and I tried to dethrone you? Don't nominate me? That's stupid. Even if, because Riley, as soon as he like read the note and it was like you have to interrogate people, he's like, just come clean and then you'll be safe. It's like, please be fucking for real. Nobody's gonna confess to you. Like, if somebody felt like they were in danger enough to use this power, which maybe Riley wasn't in the know as much, but like if you spoke to any of the other people who had powers that have already been activated, all the powers lasted until jury. And also people got the powers a couple weeks ago, right? Because the other 2 powers had already been used. Like, the powers had been there for a hot minute. So if somebody felt unsafe enough, like at risk enough to use their power to dethrone a person, why would they then waste it by telling them, hey, yeah, that was me? That makes no sense. So after he guesses Ashley, she slayed. I love Ashley. Like, she really, really, like, fooled him in a way that I loved. I loved it. She really fooled him. He guessed that it was Ashley. He was wrong. He threw a fit. maybe that's rude. He got really, really mean and aggressive about the fact that Mickey lied to him. Mickey lied to his face. It's like, that's the game. That's the game, Riley. And I was relieved because I was like, you know what? The people that I like, not in danger. Or so I thought. So on Friday, she nominated Keanu, Kelly, and then Riley was the third nominee, right? Okay, all great. I'm like, maybe we can go from Riley being the HOH to out of the house. That would be my ideal situation. I don't like Riley. I don't like the game he's playing. I find him unpleasant. The way he talks to Catherine, it makes me deeply uncomfortable. And maybe she's completely comfortable and I don't want to ruin her agency, but he's creepy. And I don't feel like he reads her, like, cues. I don't. Like, he's very intense and serious. Like, there's a moment where he was like, I don't need any dating apps. I have you. And she's like, are you excited to eat tacos? And he's like, I'm serious. Like, he took it so offensively that she was then talking about the tacos. I don't like the way I don't like him. I do not like him. I don't like him. Anyways, I'm sorry. I wish him no ill will in the real world. I do want him to get evicted pre-jury, but I wish him no ill will. I don't enjoy him, but maybe he's somebody else's cup of tea. Okay? I don't really know. Maybe he's a strong coffee and I don't drink coffee. Okay? I don't like him. That doesn't mean that there's something irredeemable about him. Do I think he has character flaws? No. I don't need to get into my personal opinions about Riley because that's not relevant to the game. But I do want to make it clear that I don't like him. Anyways, you know, I try to be fair in terms of, like, if somebody I like does something like bad game-wise, or somebody that I don't particularly like. For example, Zach is not somebody who I'm rooting for on a personal level because he has certain aspects of his personality that genuinely piss me off and that I, like, do not vibe with, and, like, I'm not going to be supporting Zach postseason. Okay, I don't like Zach. Something about him doesn't sit right in my spirit. Which is very dramatic, and again, there's nothing wrong with him as a person. But as much as I don't really think that I like Zach, I don't vibe with Zach, you know? He's not my cup of tea. I think he's a good player in certain instances, and I can give him his props. You know what I mean? So just because I don't like Riley doesn't mean that I'm, like, condemning him as a human being. But I don't like Riley. So I was like, maybe we can get Riley out. I was hopeful. I was, okay, Keanu, Kelly are on the block, blah, blah, blah. But Riley's there. And Catherine was a potential renom option. So I was like, this is perfect. This is perfect. Keanu and Kelly, comp beasts. One of them will get the veto, and then we'll get Catherine on the block. And then we have 2 out of 3 chances that we're getting Catherine or Riley out of the house. What a dream. What a dream. I was on a high. I was like, the people I care about. Mickey's aligned with the people I care about. We're good. We're good. This is going to be an easy week. A happy week even. It went from worst case scenario to paradise. I was on a high. Hell, Keanu on Saturday wins the veto, and I was still on a high. I was like, you know what? I don't particularly want Keanu in the house. We have bigger fish to fry. We might get Riley out. This is all I could ever want. And then Mickey decides that she wants to target Jimmy. Sick to my stomach. I'm sick to my stomach. I feel like I'm PMSing because I'm genuinely tearing up thinking about this. And not even from, like, an emotional, like, I'm sad for Jimmy. I am sad for Jimmy, okay, that everything happened. But just from a purely how the mighty have fallen, like, genuinely the amount of emotional roller coasters and how upset I was. Like, that is what's getting me more than anything. I'm, like, really genuinely thinking about how sad that was for me. Which is so dramatic, but, like, I'm not even kidding. It was a very fascinating week for me in terms of, like, my emotional reactions to things, because I've had weeks on Big Brother covering it on the podcast and even just as a viewer that have genuinely been really difficult for me to watch because, like, a person I'm really rooting for is, like, not doing the best or they're in danger and people are like that kind of anxiety. This was, like, disappointment after like anger and frustration, and feeds were insufferable, and like it was a different emotional reaction that I've had to feeds in a long time. Like, I can't even explain it. I think there was something about the disappointing HOH outcome, and then it felt like a redemption, right? We're getting something better. And then it's like, and it's also like, I feel like I said last week, maybe it was 2 weeks ago, I was really like, I think Mickey's playing a good game. Like, it was an emotional whiplash because it was like not only like suddenly the people that I think are safe and I care about and are good, like they're good, thank God, you know. Suddenly it was like they're turning on each other, and it's really bad gameplay. Like, it was really bad gameplay. Like, why on earth? Like, of all the fish to fry, and the reason it really got me was because obviously Riley was a nominee, and then Catherine was being talked about as being a replacement nominee. Riley and Mickey have a heart-to-heart, and she does a 180. Suddenly, she loves Riley. She's making faith-based decisions. God has spoken to her, and because of God, and not just because of God, but like genuinely, she like changes her tune on Riley. And I don't think that it was ever like she was particularly coming for Riley. I think Riley was just aggressive and coming at her, so she was like, okay, you'll be the third nominee. But it genuinely felt like, at least for me watching feeds at the beginning of the week, it felt like Riley was an easy person to get out because it's like, I dethroned you, you got mad at me, you were coming after me, so I'm going to come after you, right? And then Keanu and Kelly are consistent house targets, so like, let's get them on, like, let's get them out. If we get one of them out, great too. But like Riley, it was very, very jarring to me where suddenly she was forgiving Riley and she was like, no, I want to work with Riley. Don't worry, I'm not going to nominate Catherine. And Jimmy's the person we should go after. Like, I was like, this makes no sense game-wise. It's really upsetting. Riley does not want to work with you. He does not value you. You literally dethroned him because you and your allies were at risk. And your solution is to then turn on your allies. And like, the craziest thing is like, Mickey didn't have many like explicit enemies in the house from my understanding, but she had some people that she wasn't like very clearly aligned to. She, Jimmy, and Morgan were in a final three, the triple threat. Why on earth you would turn on a final three in the way that she did, especially a final three? I can't even, like, the words, I can't even put into words because genuinely I don't understand. I don't understand. I don't understand, like, the motivation for, of all the people who she was maybe aligned with that she could have put up, like, Jimmy genuinely, was Jimmy an interesting player? Was he maybe, like, communicating with all sides of the house, which is, like, the reason they gave or whatever? Yeah, I guess, but, like, you have way bigger fish to fry. You have people explicitly coming after you. Jimmy was not going to target you. And maybe this is an unpopular opinion, and maybe other people will disagree with me, but I do not think an ally of yours working with other people, even if you feel like an ally of yours has a pocket in every, has a bunch of alliances, I don't think the solution to that is to put them up. Because then what you're doing is cutting off ties with them. Wouldn't you want to be aligned with somebody who, like, is maybe a messier player than you so then they can be a shield? Or, like the whole way she approached it, it was really, really exhausting because they were set on Jimmy for, like, a while, right? It was like Jimmy's name came up almost immediately. On all of Sunday, they were set on him. And it's still like, when are they going to tell Jimmy? And the answer to that question was 20 minutes before. They told him 20 minutes before the renom thing. And, like, the thing is, there was a tiny bit of back and forth before renom where it was like, maybe it won't be Jimmy, maybe it won't be Jimmy. Wait, okay, also, sorry. In the veto, it's hard for me sometimes because I'm talking about, like, the sequence of events as I witnessed them. But, like, veto happened on Saturday, even though we only watched it on Wednesday. But during the veto comp, and they talked about this on feeds of, like, Keanu and Ava, like, something happened. I don't know if they just severely edited it down and Keanu did, like, raise his voice or, like, was more disrespectful to Ava. But genuinely, him being like, I thought you have a prompt, her reaction felt disproportionate. So, like, either she was really emotional and she was just triggered by that, or something did happen. But, like, the veto was, like, between Keanu and Rachel at the end. So tense. I mean, I knew what was going to happen. But honestly, like, when Riley was on the block, I was like, honestly, of all these people, I'd rather they go home. And you know what's crazy is I feel like last week I was like, I don't know how I feel about Kelly. I find her annoying, but, like, But the gameplay this week pissed me off so badly that I was like rooting for Kelly. I was like, you know what? I want Riley to go home of the three. I want Riley to go home. Let Kelly stay. I'm like rooting. I don't know if I'm like fully rooting for Kelly, like for real, because I don't think she's gonna win, but she's growing on me. Okay, also, I forgot to mention this, but another moment of Mickey, what are you doing game-wise? I was rooting for you. She asks Kelly, well, we saw this in the episode too, where she was like talking to Kelly and she's like, honestly, I'd mostly be worried that you would change my nominees. Like, I don't want to put you on the block, but I'd be worried that you would change my noms. And Kelly's like, I won't. But then she nominates Kelly and she's like, obviously I'm going to take myself off the block if I win. Like, I said I wouldn't change your nominees if I wasn't on the block. Which was just crazy. Like, I've said this so many times, and I don't need to keep repeating myself, but like, do not nominate somebody that you were not okay with going home. Enough of this pawn stuff. Enough. I'm sorry. Like, yes, okay, there are moments that pawns are useful, but when there are 3 nominees and there are 2 chances for the people to save themselves, nobody's a pawn. It's nearly impossible to have a pawn. Okay, also, I didn't really go into much detail about it, but I imagine if you're listening to this, you watch the show. So I'm like, I don't feel like but I don't know. If you don't watch the show and for some reason you're listening to this, the whole interrogation thing, I loved that portion of Sunday's episode. And I wish that the interrogations had been on feeds because it's like, how much didn't we get to see? I don't know. It was funny. I liked the different strategy. Zach, for example, again, I can give him his props. I do think he has strong game moves. He tells Riley that he's pretty sure it's Ashley. Meanwhile, he's pretty sure that it's Mickey, but it's better for him if Mickey's in power, so he'd rather that Riley guess incorrectly, which I liked. I liked that. Zach won me over a little bit with that. I like that. Except not anymore now. Now I'm like, he should have ratted Mickey out. Anyways. But like literally, and this was really, and I talked about this last week about like the way the edit is inaccurate, but the way they portrayed it in the show was as if Mickey's target from the beginning was always Keanu and she was set on Keanu, and then she just had to like scramble and be like, I don't know who else for it to be. And then people were throwing options at her and somebody like pushing Jimmy is what stuck. But like, that's not what happened. She, from the beginning, was like, I'm going to nominate these 3 people, but I'm suspicious of Jimmy. Like, Jimmy's name was already in her mouth from, like, Friday. Like, as of Friday. Now, I genuinely, like, the thing is, sometimes people throw people's names out, and I thought Mickey was smarter than to nominate Jimmy. I really did. But that's, like, definitely something that wasn't just, like, random out of nowhere. After Keanu wins the veto, replacement names are thrown out there, and Rachel is pushing for Vince to be the replacement nominee. So there was a little bit of hope there, but it really seemed like Mickey was set on Jimmy. Catherine had also been an option. Like, Catherine was the option, like, the idea initially, but then Riley won Mickey over for some godforsaken reason. I don't know, they prayed together. Which, like, okay, I think religion is a beautiful thing, and I think having some kind of shared thing that bonds you in a social game is understandable and I respect that. I think if you connect on some kind of cultural background, some kind of religious background, that's fine. It does just get a little bit frustrating as a non-religious viewer sometimes because it's like a cultural thing, right? Like, say you really connect, like, for example, Lauren has said that she and Catherine, like, get along. Like, Catherine reminds her of people that she grew up with, but their games are very separate. Literally, when Mickey was going back and forth before the renom, at some point Lauren was like, I think it's fine if you nominate Catherine. And she's, like, friends with Catherine. Like, nobody was pushing back. You know what I mean? And it's like, you can care about somebody deeply. You can have a shared connection, but that shouldn't trump the logic and the game and what's like the smarter for you, who you're aligned with. You and Riley have a personal connection because you have the shared faith. That's wonderful. You're not in an explicit alliance like you are with Jimmy, so why are you know what I mean? Like, that is where it loses me. Your games don't align. There's like a weight that people have to religion where it like trumps logic in a way that feels frustrating. It's like, you guys can have this shared faith, and like that can like even be a reason that you end up actually formally like working with somebody. But it's just this thing where it's like, you're not aligned. He's coming for you. You do this offensive, like you take his HOH to defend yourself from him nominating you, like to protect yourself and your allies. And then because you have, like, that is confusing, and it makes no sense, and it's frustrating as a viewer, because it's like, have that shared faith, but don't let the faith overcome the game decisions. Big Brother is not a religious game. You're not at church. You're not like I find that a little bit frustrating. And it is just frustrating as a viewer who's not particularly religious, because it's like, that's great that you have that connection, but that shouldn't like for example, and obviously this is different because it wasn't based in the same thing, but like Izzy and Corey were like friends. Like, he cared about her as a friend, but when getting her out made more sense, then he got her out. Be religious, connect on your religion, but letting it blind you, and then like you suddenly you trust Riley because of who he is as a person, that now that you're not going after Catherine. You had nothing against, like, you didn't have a relationship with Catherine. Jimmy was an ally of yours. He was aligned with you. He would have, like, that is why people get frustrated about religion being weaponized in the game. Because of the deep personal connection that people have to their faith, it ends up like overpowering and it trumps literally any logic or like game in a way that becomes really frustrating. It's like, have that personal connection, have those deep personal relationships, but if you're not aligned with somebody, suddenly, like, that is the frustrating part to people. I don't understand, like, I have things that I like really, really like value and are key parts of my identity. If I connected with somebody in the house based off of that, and that was great, I wouldn't let that make me backstab somebody who I'm explicitly aligned with, because suddenly, you know what I mean? It's like, that is the part that religion is annoying. Because of the weight to it, it suddenly can sway you because you don't want to turn on Riley because you share this faith, when game-wise, he's not aligned with you and it's a bad move. Suddenly you care more about that, and like, that's more important than any logic or game, in a way that is frustrating to viewers, especially ones who do not connect to you based off of that faith. Because it's like, I want to watch people make smart decisions. I don't want people to let this religion that I do not personally connect to and have any, like, you know what I mean? And also, like, not to be annoying, but like, if you live in the United States of America, the Bible's already like defining and shaping so many things and influencing like our government. Okay, like we're losing the separation of church and state. We can't even have the separation of church and Big Brother, please. Okay, it's like the Bible is now being pushed in schools, prayer is being pushed in public schools, reproductive rights are being pushed. Like, the Bible is being pushed. Okay, we do not need Christianity in everything. Let us have one thing, please. Anyways, sorry. But yeah, anyways, because Mickey suddenly has an allegiance to Riley, that along with like her just having a weird perception of the way that Jimmy's moving in the house and never having an actual conversation with him, he ends up becoming the target. I don't even know. Anyways, people push back on the Jimmy option. Rachel provides Vince, but she's really set on Jimmy. Does she tell Jimmy? No, not for a while. To the point where, oh my God, at some point, this was really confusing because Rachel starts pitching that Ava go on the block, and you're like, what the hell is going on? But then it becomes clear that she's using Ava as a code word for herself. Like, she's basically being like, don't nominate Jimmy. Like, if you're like, nominate me. Oh my God, I forgot to mention this. I'm so sorry. This is relevant. The day before, Rachel had found out that some people were talking about her being in jury and like people were planning for her to be the first juror. Like, that's the way people were viewing her in her game. So she was beginning to have a moment of like self-doubt and like certain feelings on the game and being like, Jimmy's going up, like he's an ally of mine. Like it was confusing at first because you're like, now she's pitching Ava? Who the fuck isn't turning on each other? But it was actually her being like, put me on the block. Like, I shouldn't sit in jury. I have a family. Then when Rachel follows back up, Mickey's like, that was never an option for me. So like, they still seem good for a little moment. After the nomination, like the renom, the dynamics like shift. Like there's a big turn. Okay, Jimmy is suddenly like persona non grata. Also, they kept talking about they thought Jimmy was gonna explode. He didn't. He just got very sad. Which I think is understandable. Because they told him like 20 minutes before, and he's like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, I'm not going against you. Also, I touched on this a little bit, but I keep hopping all over the place. They kind of made it seem in the edit that it was like Vince provided him some kind, or like, I think it was Vince, provided some kind of information about an alliance that Jimmy had, and that's what swayed Mickey. But Mickey was already having doubts about Jimmy. It wasn't one thing. It wasn't Vince being like, oh, it wasn't that information, I guess. It wasn't like, sometimes somebody tells the HOH something, or one piece of information can change people's perspective on an ally of theirs, but it wasn't that. Like, that wasn't the thing that shifted Mickey. So that it was incorrect in that regard. Like, Mickey was worried about Jimmy playing all sides of the house, but it wasn't like Vince telling her this is what... And also, like, Vince, Morgan, and Zach, like, really, really, as a trio, pushed in a way that I don't think was made clear in the edited episode. Anyways, sorry, I kept going all over the place about, like I jumped ahead and I'm like, oh, the renom, and then I'm like, I didn't even touch on the stuff that led up to the renom. Anyways, after Jimmy's nominated, he's really sad, and then the next few days of feet were really upsetting to watch. I'm sorry, they were so upsetting to watch. It was like, people were upset at the mere idea that somebody would go against Mickey's HOH. That really pissed me off. People were talking about, like, maybe we shouldn't vote Jimmy out, and then other people were like, Morgan specifically said, like, multiple times, like, that's not respecting Mickey's wishes as HOH. It's like, Mickey does not have ultimate say. It's not like you win HOH and you decide who goes home. You did what you could do. As of renom, you no longer have power, okay? It's not going against your wishes to vote out somebody you nominated. Then don't nominate people. You can have one specific target. And I saw somebody say this, and I can't remember who said it. I think it was Taylor. I think Taylor Hale, on an interview, they asked her, like, what advice she would have for people playing Big Brother. And she was like, be adaptable. Be adaptable. And I really agree with that, because I feel like my advice is similar. It's like, don't go into it being like, I want an easy week, or like, this person is for sure my target. Have like backup plans and the ability to like regroup and like recover from like something not going your way, you know? Because you can't control things. You can't control the vote. Factor in the fact that somebody who you nominated thinking or wanting to stay may go home, and then maybe factor that into your decisions of who you end up nominating. It really got to me when they were like pushing very hard for like, that's what Mickey wants. That's what Mickey wants. It's like, Mickey is not a dictator. They each have a vote, and people should make their decisions on who they think is best to keep in the game for themselves. I don't care what Mickey wants. Mickey did what she could do. She nominated somebody. If I don't want to vote somebody out, I'm not going to vote somebody out. And it's also like, can I just say, a big thing that was like pushed with the like AI arena blockbuster of like why it's so good is like the unpredictability, right? Fewer unanimous votes. It's like, no, actually, like, unfortunately, I mean, I don't know. It hasn't been like pure unanimous votes, but like, there is still that pressure, regardless of if there's 3 nominees. There's still the pressure of like, there are situations where it's like, if nobody that the HOH is actually targeting ends up on the block and it's just people who are disposable, then there's a bit more tension because it's like less mob mentality. But there is a very weird environment in this cast of like, you need to go with the HOH's wishes. So like, no, it doesn't really change the like pressure of the unanimous votes, which is something that I think happened in BB 25, where it was kind of like, well, I don't want to be the odd man out. There's still that attitude of like, if you would go against the house, that's bad for you. Anyways, the AI Arena thing's really pissing me off. I don't care that it's called Blockbuster, okay? It should be called AI Arena, because just like AI, it sucks. And it's ruining things that I care about. AI is ruining the planet. I love the planet. AI Arena, ruining Big Brother. I love Big Brother. Fuck AI. Arena or otherwise. Rachel is really upset after Jimmy is nominated, and there becomes a certain environment and vibe in the house where it's like Mickey wants Jimmy out, so Jimmy's the target, and people associating with Jimmy is somehow going against her wishes. People trying to campaign. Ashley tries to be what would happen if we kept Jimmy? Maybe we should keep Jimmy. And then it's why would Ashley go against Mickey's wishes? She's not actually an ally of ours. That she's not respecting what Mickey wants. Mickey wants it to be Jimmy, so why is she considering not voting Jimmy out? It's Jimmy was supposed to be an ally of yours, and you put him on the block. I'm sorry. I'm still not over it. I'm not over it. The whole thing is really upsetting. It's really upsetting. Jimmy, somebody would get him eventually, okay? He wasn't going to win. He was a chaotic player, but he was a chaotic player who was on your side. He wasn't going to come for you. Why get him out? Why get him out? Even if you don't trust him, you are not the only people who don't trust him. And he's not coming after you. It made no sense. And it genuinely makes me angry because I felt happy that Mickey won the HOH, and I felt like Mickey had good game sense. And I thought it was so masterful the way that they tricked Riley. I was so happy. It doesn't make any sense. And then it wasn't even just they nominated Jimmy and they were hey, I still love you. It's nothing personal. I just don't think you're good for my game. Immediately, Jimmy tried to have a conversation with her, and he basically disproved every concern that she had, although she just didn't believe him. But still, it's instead of having a conversation with Jimmy and being hey, we're aligned, she just wrote Jimmy off and then decided he's my target. And because of a weird mom mentality in the house, people were you know what? Mickey wants Jimmy out. Let's get Jimmy out. That's what the HOH wants. That's what we'll do. It's and then the people who Rachel and Ashley who were what makes the most sense for our games? Why are we voting Jimmy out? Do we need to vote Jimmy out between Jimmy and going through the scenarios and trying to be this doesn't make sense to get Jimmy out now. They were viewed as going against what Mickey wanted. I'm sorry. The whole thing really, really angers me. Rachel's really, really pushing back. At some point in the week, Mickey's Vince is really sketchy. We should go after him next. It's you could have gone after him now. And again, in the edited show, they made it seem Vince knew that he was an option. So then he was he threw Jimmy's name out there. It's they painted it as if Vince saved himself from the block by throwing Jimmy's name out there, where that's not the sequence of events at all from what I gathered. Jimmy was already in their minds, which again, I wouldn't even I have more information, so I can be he wasn't coming after you. You didn't have to doubt him. It's not even about having concerns about an ally of yours and being wary of an ally of yours and being I don't think that there is a line. That's fine. Would it still have bothered me for them to be as suspicious of him? Because I knew that yes, that's not the frustrating part. It's you don't immediately nominate and evict an ally of yours because you have suspicions of them talking to other people. Them trying to have game relationships with a variety of people doesn't mean they're not loyal to you. They're covering their bases. Your side of the house isn't always going to be in power. They don't need to be loyal to other people to have some kind of rapport so they can have some kind of favor if the other side of the house or somebody who's not in an alliance of theirs wins, so they're not a target. I don't even know. I'm just angry. I'm angry about it because there's no logical reason. Anyways. Also, Riley and Catherine get close and show me and see. I don't really care about Riley and Catherine. I'm sorry. I have enough of a headache this week. I have enough of a headache talking about this week. I don't need to go into the Catherine and Riley of it all. I hope one of them gets evicted pre-jury, okay? Ideally Riley, but I need them separated for Catherine's well-being. She's a grown woman and she has agency, and I'm not trying to like, place things on her. Maybe she's fine. I just don't like the dynamic. I see red flags and I don't like it. I don't like the way he talks to her. I don't like it. I don't like it, and I worry for her because I think even if you were charmed by somebody, the red flags from the outside, like there are still red flags. I don't care if she's charmed by him. Anyways, it's fine. Sorry. That's not relevant to the game. Okay, also throughout the week, Will really confused me because when he was talking to Ashley, it seemed like he agreed that Jimmy needed to stay. But then there were moments with Ava where it seemed like Will was not, for a while it was like, okay, maybe Jimmy will stay. We have a few people, Ashley, Will, Rachel, like maybe they can sway votes. And then suddenly there was a shift and it was like it was only Ashley and Rachel. Like everybody was being swayed to what Mickey wanted in a way that I genuinely was like, what planet am I existing on? Did I still have hope deep down? The people were just not explicitly, maybe this is like just me wishful thinking, but I was like, maybe they are actually understanding why it's smarter to keep Jimmy. And they're just like not saying it because anytime you bring up a dissenting idea of who they should vote out, it becomes this thing. Like maybe that's it. Maybe they do actually know that keeping Jimmy is smarter. I don't even know. Like the thing is, I was like, okay, for some reason, Riley's not even in consideration for people. But I was like, maybe if it's between Jimmy and Kelly, people will be like, it makes more sense to get Kelly out. Maybe. My hope and the biggest, the biggest goal would be that Jimmy wins Blockbuster. Because then it's Kelly and Riley, and at that point, I prefer if Riley went, but Kelly is disposable to me in the game. She seems like she seems like a lovely person. I have nothing negative to say about Kelly as an individual. A lot of like the social media stuff, like I don't know if you've seen the video of her. Like I don't remember where she was, but she was like abroad. I think maybe, I don't want to give a country and then be wrong, but there was a Karol G concert, like close enough from where she was staying that she could hear it, and she was like singing along. Like I find her endearing. Okay, I find Kelly endearing. I don't really vibe with the way she plays the game, but I find her endearing. There were also a few moments throughout the week. Sorry, I'm hopping all over the place because there are like interesting game moments, but none that are super, super impactful to like the results of the week, if that makes sense. But Kelly had some interesting moments where it seemed like she was catching on to Vince, maybe not being like as truthful to her. Not super important in terms of like the outcome of the week because it's not like Vince was on the block and that would then impact her decision. But there were a few moments where I was like, okay, Kelly, winning me over. Your social media is funny to me, and also maybe you're realizing game things. I don't know. I'm still torn on Kelly, but anyways, there were some positive moments. On Tuesday, Mickey gets upset and annoyed that Ashley's like defending Jimmy and trying to advocate for Jimmy to stay, and it's like, why? Like, you can nominate your ally, but his ally can't want to keep him. Anyways. Oh, also, in BB Unlocked, people voted for things, and Rachel won. She got gooed. I don't know if she also then gets some kind of power. I don't really know the details of the goo stuff. Maybe by the time this podcast episode goes live, they'll have revealed on BB Unlocked if there was like some kind of power that she won being gooed. But anyways, it was also Kelly's birthday this week. Happy birthday, Kelly. Ava begins to kind of turn on Ashley and be frustrated at the idea that people don't want to vote Jimmy out. I don't even know. It was just really unpleasant to watch feeds this week because it was like gameplay was really frustrating and annoying and stupid, and it was also just like really negative. It was really negative. Like it reminded me of like late season Big Brother 25 in terms of like how depressing it was to watch because it was like, I don't like anybody's gameplay and I don't like the way they're talking about each other, and like they were unnecessarily, like if you want Jimmy out because you think he's not a good asset to your game, whatever, but why do you have to like isolate him? And like the whole thing was really annoying. On Wednesday, Jimmy's been campaigning, Kelly's been campaigning. It seems like Jimmy's going. Is he not? It's really up in the air, but like it really feels like if Jimmy's on the block, he's gonna go because for some reason the idea of going against Mickey's wishes. Maybe that's my read. Maybe there's people. I know people had some issues with Jimmy. To me, it just really feels like this. Like my perception on like the reason it was so one way or the other, like it was so firm on the like we need to go with the house, was Mickey's attitude on the whole thing. Because even after the vote, it was like 9-2, and she's like, who were the two? Like she's like upset that not everybody unanimously voted her target out. It's like people have different targets in the game, Mickey. Sorry, I'm sorry. You know that clip where it's like, I've never in my life yelled at a girl like this. That was me all I'm like, I'm mad. I was so mad. This episode should be called Emmy crashing out about Big Brother 27. Anyways, you know, I will actually, let me get to the end of the week and then I'll say something positive. In the edited episode, we get some kind of we see a little bit of like the fallout, the whole Ashley, like that, the tension between Mickey's allies such as Ashley because of the whole Jimmy nomination thing. Then the blockbuster happens and Riley wins, and I was devastated. He's who I wanted to go home. I do not like him, and I didn't think Jimmy was going to stay against Kelly, and I was right. But you know what? Like, the thing is, I still found it odd. I still found it stupid. The reason I didn't think it was going to happen was because I think they're stupid, and I've lost faith in like all of their gameplay. Taryn from Rob Has a Podcast, I don't remember what day he said this on like which live feed recap day, but he like quoted the Dr. Will thing, like Dr. Will's speech from Big Brother 7, where he's like, I can't find an individual to hate because I hate you all. He quoted that, but at the gameplay. And like, I really feel that. So at that point, I was like, well, if Jimmy's on the block, he's probably going home because they're idiots. The first 4 votes are all for Jimmy to go. I don't remember who it was. Then, because the only interesting votes to note, Rachel goes in and she votes to evict Kelly. Ashley follows, and in the hallway, they have some kind of conversation, and then Ashley, very conflicted, says, I vote to evict. She's like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I vote to evict Kelly. Shout out Mom and Dad. That was really funny to me, where she was like really, like in her head, unsure what to do, but she still gave the shout out. It was like a they all practiced. They're like, I happily, and then they're like, shout out Mom and Dad. She was like, I vote to evict, like, I don't know. I thought that was funny. Maybe it was a nothing burger. But the funniest part, Will is next, and in the hallway, they have a mini conversation. We don't know what they're saying. I'm sure, honestly, I'm excited to see Sunday's episode where they will maybe give subtitles and like try to show us somewhat what they actually said during that, because we didn't hear anything. Julie was like speaking, because Julie, before every person comes out, is like, this person is aligned with blah blah. Will that, you know, like she presents a like who this person is most likely to vote for. So anyways, okay, so Julie was talking, so it's not like we could hear what they were saying. But Will and Ashley have some kind of conversation. Will obviously reacts to whatever Ashley says. She's clearly like, I voted for Kelly, and he's like, oh no. She goes back in and she goes, no, I changed my mind. I vote to evict Jimmy. Then Will votes to evict Jimmy, and everybody that follows votes to evict Jimmy. And Julie clarifies that Ashley's first vote is what will count. So by a vote of 9-2, Jimmy is evicted. I was really sad. Like, the thing is, I wasn't even particularly rooting for Jimmy. I liked him. I enjoyed him. Like, I don't have anything negative to say. I don't have anything negative to say about him. His HOH wasn't the best, but it also wasn't the worst. And I also just really think he got dealt a shitty hand. Like, you have to nominate 5 people. That does suck. I'm not shitting on him necessarily. And certainly in line of people that I wanted to go, he was not anywhere near the front of the list. Like, Jimmy was very much in the middle for me, where it's like, he's aligned with people that I'm rooting for, and I enjoy watching him. I'm not really rooting for him to win necessarily, but I also don't want him going anytime soon. But, like, the thing is, it wasn't even about that. It was about the whole way that the week transpired and the, like, hope of, like, Mickey has power. This is good. This is good for me. Then suddenly, Mickey's making the dumbest decisions with said power. And not only she's making decisions, but it becomes personal, and they're like saying negative things about Jimmy and like judging Jimmy and isolating Jimmy. And why is Rachel talking to Jimmy? That will look bad for her. And she's like, I'm not going to not align. Like, I'm not going to not spend time with him if he's going. Why wouldn't I spend time with him? Like, the whole way they treated everybody, Ashley daring to be like, maybe we should keep Jimmy, was like an affront to Mickey. The whole way, like, Morgan talked about, like, people going against Mickey's HOH as if that was, like, a crime. Like, the whole week and the way they talked about things really upset me. It really upset me. I'm not gonna lie. It was really upsetting. The random, like, the sudden allegiance that Mickey had to Riley just because they prayed together. The whole thing really upset me. I was really sad. What I was gonna say before, and I stopped myself, is, you know, through all of it, Lauren, pretty undetectable this week. So of all the people who, like, I had very strong feelings for, that I really, really liked and I was really rooting for, a lot of people, like, kind of teeter-tottered for me. Like, Ava on Wednesday, I believe, like, was really negative about Ashley and was, like, very much pushing the, like, why is Ashley trying to go against Mickey's wishes sentiment that really bothered me. Like, Ava really pissed me off, and I was like, I'm very, very much like, I love Ava's personality, and I also like the way she talks about the game. And then she started saying things game-wise, and I'm like, why are you also talking about the game in such an upsettingly frustrating, stupid way? So, like, a lot of people that I was really rooting for, suddenly I was like, you're not that good of a player, you're bothering me. I still have hope for Ava. Maybe hopefully it was just a temporary thing. I don't even know. I'm hopeful for Ava. I'm not giving up on Ava, but, like, all that to say that Lauren, I said at the end of last week that, like, as much as Lauren was a very indecisive HOH, I don't think she left her HOH in a worse spot. And I do stand by that. Like, I think Mickey is in a worse spot. I do not think Mickey's gonna, like, I really think that this, like, shot Mickey's chances of winning. If she had any, it really, like, it was such a stupid move. And it not only is it a stupid move, her thought process and the reason she came to that decision, like, indicates a severe, like, lack of game ability that I think just, like, at this point, I would be shocked if Mickey won. Not because this one individual move necessarily screwed her over, but because she has such a bad game sense. And I'm like, you have to, like, you have to be kidding me, you know? Anyways, sorry. So, but all that to say that Lauren didn't make many moves. But you know what? Maybe that's the game she's playing. Like, Lauren, when she won HOH, I was like, I don't think that was the best decision because she was being undetected. But you know what? She got a little bit of power. She made some moves. And now she's kind of back to being, like, in the middle, undetected, not really on anybody's radar. Maybe that'll serve Lauren well. I do think Lauren will at least make it to jury. And maybe in the end she can, like, comp out and, like, do something really strategic. Like, I'm not giving up on Lauren. I think it's early enough in the game that somebody's position of, like, lying low can pay off in the end. So Lauren's stocks went up for me this week simply because she didn't do anything too stupid. So, like, the bar is low, but it did make me happy that I'm like, you know what? Going into next week, Lauren's not in that bad of a spot. And also, when some of them were being mean to Ashley, she defended Ashley. And that goes a long way with me because I didn't like the way some of them were talking about Ashley. I really like Ashley. Ashley is so funny. I think she's underestimated. I like her in the game. I don't know if I think that she's capable of winning. Not because I don't think she's really smart and she could. I just think that at least there's something about this cast that, like, a lot of people don't like her, that I think it would be hard in the end. Honestly, I just had a vision. Lauren, Ashley, final two. Lauren wins. Will that happen? Unlikely. But I'm putting that out there in case that happens one day. One day. I'm like, at the end of the season. I don't really know if it's going to happen. I think a lot of things have to happen. But you know what? I have hope. I have hope that things will fall into motion and, like, Vince and Zach will get out, because I do think Vince and Zach are, like, insulated too well, where if those men start going and other people start turning on each other, I do think Lauren is kind of somebody who may just end up being, like, last on the totem pole of people that others are going after. Like, I don't think she's going to be a big enough target in a way that I think may serve her, because I think she may, like, end up being undetected and, like, last long because of that. But anyways, that's where I'm going to wrap up. It was a rough week, to be honest, but talking it through helped. It's like therapy, you know? Like, I was angry, I was sad, I was happy, and then I was sad. I was sad, then I was happy, then I was sad, then I was happy. I mean, actually, it was just sadness and anger at the end. But, like, talking it through helped. I'm excited for week 5. I mean, I don't know. Am I? I'm trying not to let things get me down, because I do think, as much as, like, the week bothered me, there's always something if there's one positive that came out of the week, it's the reminder that things change really fast. They really do. So that's good news because things can change back in my favor. And let's hope that happens. So that's where I will leave you. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed the episode, please feel free to follow me wherever you listen to podcasts. Turn on notifications so you can get notified when I upload. I sometimes schedule the episodes before I go to bed, and then I don't wake up right when they go up. So it's good to have notifications on because that way the Spotify or Apple Podcasts will tell you when the episode goes live. So you don't have to wait for me to post the link. But I do post the link on my social media. So if you don't want to follow me there, if you follow my social media, you'll get notified that way. Updates, I also post on my social media if things are delayed. So that's down below if you want to follow that. Obviously, you don't have to. Just tuning in means so much to me. If you have any comments, corrections, anything like that, please let me know in the comments down below. I do also check my message requests. So if you don't want to comment down below, but you have something you want to say, feel free to message request me. And if you have any shows that you would like to hear my opinions on, I can't guarantee that I'm watching it, but I might be watching it. So if you're like, man, I wonder what Emmy's been thinking about this, I say that the only person who ever, for example, I talked about Bachelor in Paradise this episode because my sister said, Emmy, I wish you were talking about Bachelor in Paradise on the podcast. And I listened. So you're welcome. I love you. Thank you so much for tuning in. It means a lot. You'll hear from me next week, hopefully Sunday. I'm hopeful that this episode will go out Sunday, but it is a little bit longer than usual. So maybe I'll be delayed and it'll end up going out Monday. But I feel like it should be out Sunday. I feel like getting it recorded Thursday night will give me 2 days to edit it. I'm working both of those days. So, but still 2 evenings after work to edit is more than 1 evening after work. So I'm hopeful. Thank you so much for tuning in. It means a lot. And as Julie Chen says, love one another.